Hello, Red Spotters. Welcome to the program. I'm your lovely host, Kyle Lira, and today we're talking Oscars. We're talking Jessica Jones. We're talking S.H.I.E.L.D., and we're talking Jon Faverauu joining the Star Wars Netflix family. To cut to the chit chat, let's go to Red Spotlight number 98, and the winner is. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. So, Alexis Soto, the guy with me, my co-host, my lovely co-host. How are you doing, my lovely co-host?
What is your obsession with the word lovely?
I don't know.
Today?
I'm just in a lovely mood.
In here, I thought I would overdo it when I would say very special.
Very special indeed. Anyway. Alexis, we saw the Oscars. Well, I saw 75% of it, but you watched the whole shebang.
As I usually do. As is tradition.
Before we get into the actual winners, I want to dive into reviewing the actual show itself. Alexis, what did you think of the show?
Did Jimmy Kimmel essentially repeat everything he did last year? Yes. Did that bother me? Not necessarily. Because I liked what he did last year. I actually found him to be entertaining. I know one thing in particular that you despised last year was the bit where he brought in like audience people into the theater and mingling with the celebrities that they were supposedly on the tour. I know you didn't like that.
Shoved it up. We shove it up the ass. This time around.
Well, we've established you didn't like that. I kind of liked it. I think Peter also liked it as well. This year,
it was asinine.
Again,
But go on.
Was it really? Do you feel it was asinine?
It was asinine. It was too much. Hey, look at us. Hollywood seems to be so, far up its own ass.
But that's how Hollywood is, though. I gotta say,
though. It's all the glamorous people going to the poor people. Yay, us.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Would your tone be different if you were in that theater and Mark Hamill walked in and Gal Gadot? And all those people, how would you, if you were in that audience, and if you got to meet those celebrities, how would you be acting?
If I were watching a movie, I would be pissed.
Kyle, if you were in that particular theater, and if the movie they were watching was Wrinkle in Time, by the way, they interrupted Wrinkle in Time for a much better show. According to the reviews, I don't think anybody minded that they interrupted A Wrinkle in Time to meet Mark Hamill and Gal Gadot and everybody else who was.
Well, to be fair, it's a free early screening.
Yes, but look, I think the intention behind that, even though yes, it was a bit probably staged for television, sure, of course, but I like the theme of it, trying to. Extend a hand out to the people who go to the movies regularly, like you and me. And I for one, happen to think that if we were in that theater and if Mark Hamill, of all people, would walk through it, we would go crazy. I would love to meet him, wouldn't you? But I understand that it plays differently when you're not in that room, and maybe it did come across as, like, uppity. I didn't really particularly care for it either way, so I'm not really, like, if you hated it, okay. And the thing is, though, it's kind of tricky, especially that Jimmy Kimmel had to maneuver this in his monologue, and quite frankly, throughout the entire night. Because this is the Academy Awards, but it's not like he or anybody on that stage could have ignored the whirlwind that has taken Hollywood by storm the past year, which is the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement and all the other things that
I
accompany
know,
that.
but like every
I don't see. I don't see. Yeah, okay. I know where you're going to go with this. I know where you're going to say it. I am.
what am I
Let
gonna
me
say?
just say, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Yeah, but I know. But not every single person on that stage has to go political. Not every person on that stage has to address it. Okay, that is a fair criticism. I'm not here saying that you shouldn't feel that way, because quite frankly, I did. Toward the end of the night, I was like, okay, guys, all right, I get it. Enough. Even I agree with you, but I mean, this is the Academy Awards. We shouldn't get this political. But at the same time, you can't really argue at the fact that a lot of the messages that people were saying, especially when people, for the winners that were addressing displaced people in society, for marginalized people, for diversity, all of those things are very important, especially when I think, well, I don't want to get into the win right now, but when Lee Unkrich got up there with Darla K. Anderson and Adrian Molina, and they were talking about how much this movie is meant to really, unite marginalized people. And different things here and there to the left and to the right of it. Look, it's tricky. It's not going to be a perfect thing. And what I'm trying to say is, regardless of how they handle it, they were always going to get criticized. I'm with you in the sense that perhaps this was like too much of bringing it up every now and then. But at the same time, this is such a huge year for these movements, and especially for women in Hollywood. And I think like the politics of it kind of go beyond it. I know that our own Alexis Moreno, was very empowered by the speech by Frances McDormand when she accepted her award for Best Actress. So maybe are there moments that just turned you off, or was it entirely?
It
'Cause
was okay. The thing is
Go
that I agree that things need to change, obviously, you know, but to constantly hammer it in your ass, is just completely asinine. And the thing is that it no longer feels like a celebration of movies, but a celebration of celebrity intrigue. And that right there is what pisses me off about all the recent award shows. And I get it. I completely get it. Like the whole Me Too movement, the whole diversity in movies,
which we support, by the way. Which
I
we
support
to be
that.
clear.
And also, that right there is got me frustrated. And also, every other female. Again, I understand the whole Me Too movement, but come on, do you think it's like fair to the nominees every time they say, "Here are the male nominees"? Is that really fair?
Well, I mean, they all laughed. And if you're going to blame anybody for that, blame Natalie Portman, because she's the one that started this a few weeks back with the Golden Globes. And here are the 5 male nominees for Best Director.
But then everybody starts saying it, and I don't think that's fair. And if you really want change, go into the hiring. Go target the hiring. Don't target the audience itself. It seems like these presenters are targeting the audience themselves and chastising them for going out to support these movies.
Does it feel
It
that
feels
way to
like
you?
that. It feels like they're...
Because I thought that they were attacking the Academy themselves, or maybe Hollywood in general.
Well, then hire other diverse people. Stop hiring. I mean, yeah, Spielberg, Scorsese, whatever. Name all the directors out there, but start the hiring center. You're not going to change stuff by just chanting it out. Actually, freaking do something about it.
Well, look, I understand where you're coming from, and I get the resentment and the frustration, but if we're going to be blunt about where we are with things. A few years ago, I wasn't too fond of the outrage of Oscars So White, and I came at it from the perspective of, look, these are the Academy Awards, and they're supposed to nominate the most outstanding acting performances of the year. Now, putting that to the side real quick, you know, I feel that maybe perhaps I was a bit misguided when I said that, because maybe I didn't fully appreciate where the outrage was coming from. And to be fair to everything that Kyle just said, it's perfectly understandable to have those frustrations, and I know you know this, but it certainly needs to be reiterated that every award show is political, and perhaps it always was. And to the extent that we're talking about politics in these award shows, a lot of the people who win are about politics, regardless of whether or not they deserve it. Every single year we have people who win not because they deserve it, but because it's their time, or it's their year, or they're popular, they're well liked. And everybody here on the channel thinks that's absolutely disgusting, and that's why in general these award shows are bullshit, because these people are never awarded based on merit. They're awarded based on, who had the best Oscar campaign. Do the Academy, do they like you or not? So just so we get that out of the way and perfectly clear. The next thing I wanted to add on is what you said, don't attack the Academy. That's not so effective. There may be some evidence to the contrary, Kyle, about that, because Oscar So White thing happened just a few years ago, and because of that outrage, they were forced to essentially change their rules. And every single year now since that happened, they're accepting more people of color, more diverse people into the Academy itself. And I think ever since that happened, you've been seeing more nominees of diverse background, and I think you've also seen it perhaps in the winners. Like, again, going back to the couple of past years, Moonlight winning Best Picture, 12 Years a Slave winning Best Picture, Get Out almost winning, certainly. There are a lot more different kinds of nominees because there are a lot more different kinds of academy members themselves that don't look like one another. So in around 10 years' time, what we associate with as the median Academy member, the old white man, they're probably not going to be in the majority. So, and that probably wouldn't have happened so quickly if it wasn't for this outrage. So, is it fair to attack them? Probably not, because they're not the ones who cast the movies. It's the movie studios. And that's why Frances McDormand said inclusion writer, right? That's where you go about attacking the problem. Every now and then, or not every now and then, it seems like every single day we have issues with whitewashing and casting, and because the opportunity isn't there. I know Natalie Portman said recently that apparently... because Annihilation, directed by Alex Garland, it's an adaptation of a novel, and apparently the character is not white, and she had no idea. And she was like, if I had any idea, I probably wouldn't have taken the role. So these are issues that are continuing to happen. And is it fair to attack the Academy? Probably not, but you can't argue with the results that I don't think movies like Get Out or Moonlight would be getting this much love and attention by this group 10 years ago. I don't know about you, but it seems to me that change is happening.
I think this is what needs to happen. Number one, don't... your heart is in the right place. I get, hiring diversity, but don't hire because it's the diverse choice. Hire because it's the right choice. Also...
And I agree with you, but you have to understand that from people from the other side of the aisle probably don't see it that way. I'm always of the person is you hire the best person for the job. And while we're talking about this, Kathleen Kennedy has been under fire recently for hiring white men to do basically every single Star Wars movie and TV show. And while I think perhaps she's not handling the PR the best way possible, I have no doubt she hired the best person for that job.
But
I think that's just the way it goes.
but then
Sometimes.
again, when people bring up a lot of more diverse options, number one, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Wrinkle in Time is not doing so well, and that's partially because its director doesn't know how to do big blockbuster, and you're seeing that presented to you in front of the screen. So uh, sometimes uh, diversity is not the right answer. Just look for the most talented, the ones that are capable of doing that and have shown their worth. Um, that's all. That's all I want to say about the matter. Um, just
Okay, yeah, no, I understand it. I guess I should actually review the actual show itself. Yeah, the politics were the politics, but that you know, we already covered that. As far as the production value, I enjoyed Jimmy Kimmel. I think he's very funny. He's very on the point. He's very quick. I love the pacing of it. You can tell he really practiced for that. But I think I haven't seen a host like him in recent memory, where he just just breezes through a monologue or through a set like nothing. And I think that he has
oh,
wonderful
especially
timing.
after
As
especially
far
after last year and what happened, and
yeah.
he never
Oh well,
he
I
never
mean
let himself down for that, actually, because he was the pretty much the joke of the night is, please don't mess this up, and that was clearly present with everything, and also the sound sounded better, like it was well equalated, if that's a word.
well, one of the reasons why I enjoyed this year is because this was the 90th Academy Awards, and they had like special packages and like montages of different movies and actors. And while they may not have been entirely necessary, I did find them to be wonderfully edited, and they did strike a bit of emotion in me. All the different kinds of films that were put together. I'm a big fan of montages. I like them, and watching them before a category. And just because it is a celebration of
Oh,
how long this industry
hey,
has been going on.
as somebody who has edited a few for the podcast, I
Yeah.
too am a huge
Mm-hmm.
fan of montages. So I think that this whole Oscars, guys, just I don't know. There,
I understand
Hollywood
that
is not going to listen
frustration.
to this podcast, so I'm preaching to a
I
wall
mean,
here, but I don't know, just like uh don't just go for like the diverse choice, go for the talented choice. Um
but I guess I think what's more important, though, that's the real question because you're saying go for the right choice, but are you talking about in terms of the studios or for the awards? Who are you referring to?
right now the studios, because that's who they seem to be addressing. So I'm just answering what they're saying. Uh
Right.
and that's go for.
Which I agree, by the way. That's where they should. But the thing is, though, that's why this is like not the most comfortable thing discussing because it's like it's not like it's one thing or the other. You have to do both. You can't just say, "Well, we did the best choice" and just slack off diversity. You need to have more people of different backgrounds in your movies. It's not like I'm not saying put that over somebody who's better, because then that would be affirmative
I mean,
action. I'm just saying.
if you were to
w-
cast, if you were to do a biopic of like Jackie Chan, for example, you're clearly not going to hire a white guy to play Jackie Chan. It's just, it, it just, I don't know.
Well, I mean that's exactly the problem right there in recent memory. Well, what happened with what's her name, Tilda Swinton in Doctor Strange? What was the character she was playing?
The Grandmaster. Um,
Was it the Grandmaster? I think she was some. I don't remember the name, but that character was in the comics anyway of Asian descent and Asian background. Also, Iron Fist. A lot of people were very angry, and I know you haven't seen Iron Fist. A lot of angry with the fact that they cast a white guy for
Danny
Rand.
Rand is white. What are you complaining about? That right there is asinine. And also, when people I mean, albeit Ghost in the Shell was a piss poor movie, other than a few visuals that were really cool. Uh, Scarlett Johansson, when she was cast, a lot of people in America,
Right.
were all pissed off that they didn't hire an Asian lady when when it was released in Asia. The Asian community gave zero fucks about that. It was
Right, but Kyle, hold up. I do want to make it clear though. You know, we know Nick Fury today as Samuel L. Jackson, but he was white in the comic books, right? So if they can change it for Nick Fury, why couldn't they change it for Danny Rand? If you're already changing things to different races, why not just do it then? I mean, it's an adaptation, right? I don't. Again, like, especially with Iron Fist, the actor who they got, which I forget his name, I don't think he was the best person for the job. I'm just saying right there, they could have found some better actors for that show, for that character.
which show again?
Iron
Okay.
Fist. Right. So it's like, look, it's not an easy thing to discuss, and it's not going to be an easy solution. That's all I'm going to say right now. Can we move on to the winners?
Yes. I like to go into the silent heroes of the whole entire movie industry, as we talk about the more technical aspect before we get to the good stuff. First of all, best film editing goes to Dunkirk.
Are we going to go off one by one?
Yeah, pretty much. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. Of
Oh, God.
Film editing goes to Dunkirk. Cinematography goes to Blade Runner 2049. And the award was received to Roger Deakins. Well, my opinion on that is no shit. It's one of the most gorgeous movies last year. You would be completely foolish to not give it to Blade Runner 2049. Sound editing went to Dunkirk, and sound mixing went also to Dunkirk. Alexis Soto has a saying, and that's the Academy votes for the most loudest movie. And Dunkirk, I've seen about 30 minutes of the movie, and it is definitely the loudest movie of the list. Production design went to The Shape of Water. I like that choice. It really went to the one with the more like there's more of a visual style to it. The way that the sets were designed, the way that it looked very rustic and lived in. I really loved. Like, it didn't feel like new and shiny. That right there was really cool. Best visual effects, again, no shit. Blade Runner 2049. My God, the city looks gorgeous, and the way that they shot some of the scenes. Again, it goes to when it was a beautiful moment between I don't know what her name is, but the hologram Joy.
Joy.
When Joy and Ryan Gosling were being intimate for the first time. My God, that was a visually striking scene. And just like the way that the holograms, the projections really worked together and in unison. And also what they did with bringing Rachel back. That was also a visual striking scene. And it looked like they pulled Sean Young out from the 80s and put it into this movie. So I think that was really good. Something that probably Lucasfilm couldn't do. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Best adapted screenplay. Shame on me for not seeing this yet, but I will see it, guys. Call Me by Your Name, and the recipient who got received the award was James Ivory. I hear the movie is wonders, and it's done wonders for a lot of people. We'll get to see it soon. Best original screenplay goes to Get Out, with the recipient being Jordan Peele. I like this choice. I like this. I like that choice. Jordan Peele, my God, what a career he's had. Literally starting from the bottom, starting off.
Have you seen Get Out?
Anyway, best score goes to The Shape of Water, receiving from Alexandra Desplat. Um,
Alexandre Desplat.
Alexandra Desplat. Zigo. If only Peter were here.
Yeah, I'm
The
not
Shape
doing
of
that.
Water.
I can do Oh Wow,
Oh
but not The
wow.
Girl.
Speaking of Pixar, best song goes to "Remember Me" from Coco. I'm glad. I'm glad that "This Is Me" from Camp Rock didn't win. Um, so yeah, best animated feature. Coco. Duh. I think Coco deserved to win. Although Loving Vincent was also striking visual, and it was a really well made, put together movie. What they did with capturing all the actors and painting them frame by frame, amazing. Best supporting actress. Let's get to the big stuff, guys. Um, Best supporting actress goes to Allison Janney for I, Tonya. Great pick. I think that is a deserving winner of the award. I think she played fantastically. She was batshit insane, but not as batshit insane as a Bucky Barnes was. But what she did as the mom, and you see in the movie where Tanya Harding comes from, and the line of not Succession, but you definitely see like her upbringing through Allison Janney, and you get to see the madness within Tanya's world. Best supporting actor. Great job, Mr. Sam Rockwell. I think you did fantastic at this for your role in Three Billboards, and I think you as Dixon in the movie was fantastic, superb in every single level. Best actress, Frances McDormand from Three Billboards. Again, no shit. Another recipient that could have got it, but I'm glad that Frances McDormand won was Salon Hawkins. But I think Frances did good. Best actor, Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour. Um, People could see that coming from a mile away. Yeah. Best director goes to Mr. Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water. Finally, finally, thank you Academy for apologizing for not giving him the award back when Pan's Labyrinth was up. So thank you. Best Picture, going once again to The Shape of Water. I think Inspired Choice. Inspired Choice definitely lends its way to more experimental movies and artsy movies like The Shape of Water to be in the forefront. So, Alexis Soto, let's talk of this long list.
Okay, I'll quickly go over. All right, so I think there were several categories in which the person I would have preferred to win didn't win. That being said, there really isn't. I think this is one of the rare years in where I can't really argue with any of the winners, in that I can't really hate who ended up winning. I think a lot of the people who ended up winning this year were very deserving, and that is because, as we have been saying for quite some time, that 2017 was an extraordinary year.
Dude, it was so fucking hard to choose.
It was. In fact, there was other films. I mean, I wished I would have gotten more recognition, but in the sense of who ended up winning, I'll quickly go through. Yeah, Dunkirk was going to win. Those three. Again, if I were picking them, I wouldn't give Dunkirk a single cent. I mean, I would have probably given Baby Driver instead
Film
of Dunkirk,
editing.
I would have put Baby Driver
Film
for all
editing.
of
I
those.
was completely shocked that it did not win for film editing, because that movie was so explicitly, intricately edited, and that was really a huge shocker for the film editing.
Well, for future reference, for film editing, because film editing is indirectly, sometimes directly tied into Best Picture. I'll tell you this: if Baby Driver wasn't nominated for Best Picture, Dunkirk was. So that would have probably a good a good indicator for what is more popular and what isn't with the Academy, for future reference anyway. Roger Deakins winning for cinematography after 14 nominations, losing. Amazing moment. The crowd loved it. He loved it. And of course, Blade Runner has the best cinematography of any movie this year. What it doesn't have is visual effects. Now look, every single film on the list, except for Kong, I love. And just about, and I think even then you can narrow it down to 3 contenders had amazing visual effects. But even then, you can narrow it down between 2. The visual effects in Blade Runner Works was extraordinary. We've talked about it to death about how beautiful it is to look at. But I don't think you can compare anything they did with the apes for War for the Planet of the Apes. And it's not just creating, Sean Young for like one scene. You have all these. You have Maurice, and you have Caesar, and you have Bad Ape, and you have all of these characters throughout the entire film, and they look realistic.
Can I take this moment and say, fuck off, Academy, for not putting Andy Serkis in Best Leading Actor?
Well, especially because like Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and now War for the Planet of the Apes have all been nominated in this category and now have lost 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times.
It's such a bloody shame, mate.
It is, and I feel bad for Andy Serkis because I just feel he's one of the most underappreciated people in the industry. Not just for, being on the forefront of motion capture, but for being a great actor. I think if you saw Black Panther, that's all the proof you need to know about how much of a thespian Andy Serkis is.
By the way,
really.
guys, check out
all.
his mixtape on SoundCloud. I think you'd love it. Anyway, go on, Mr. Soto.
Other things. Of course, Shape of Water was going to win Best Score, which I was rooting for it, because, that was the best score
Same.
of the bunch. A song, I was surprised that Remember Me won, because I was already expecting it to go to This Is Me, but I was so pleasantly surprised. In general, I really was galvanized by the wins of Coco, because that was just so... What made it more special was seeing the reaction of certain people like Gael Garcia Bernal in the audience, as well as Oscar Isaac when he presented the award for Best Animated Feature. I think that really lit a fire in a lot of people, and you can just tell the passion this movie has. I was actually watching this. I was watching a bit of Coco the other night in Spanish, and I'm like, man, this is such a good movie. But it's also a very important movie.
So, were you watching it online, or did you watch it?
I watched it live. I always watch it live.
Coco. Did you watch?
No, I have the digital copy.
Okay, so
on my
does
iPad.
it come with the Spanish version?
I don't know if it's my parents saw it last night in Spanish. The DVD, the Blu-ray that they have the copy at home, and all I did was change the dubbing. Maybe not the dubbing. I just changed it to Spanish. It syncs up pretty well. I'm not sure if it's a dubbed version, but I to tell you the truth, I have no idea.
Okay, because I'm acquiring
I'll tell
Blu-ray
you
soon, and I want to watch it in Spanish. Even
right.
though I'll have no idea what they're saying.
Well, my parents saw it last night in Spanish, and they didn't seem to notice it, so and they loved
But
it.
yeah,
So
I definitely felt the passion of the Latin community with this movie, and I definitely it was definitely heartwarming to see the
hmm
faces of everybody involved.
also it was I think it was also a proud moment of redemption for Pixar. You know, it had been some time since they've made something. I think this was their best film since 2010, to be quite honest with you. And again, as somebody who has defended a lot of the films and have liked and appreciated a lot of the films that they've made, um, Coco was something special, and I think you can tell. And I think what was also quite remarkable about, especially the acceptance speeches, was the diversity of the three filmmakers responsible when it came to co-screenwriter Adrian Molina, who thanked his husband, also producer and screenwriter Darla K. Anderson, who thanked her wife. You just think about the complete diversity right there into making this. I think that was a really special moment. And then, of course, Lee Unkrich, who brought it home when he said, and most of all, thank you to the people of Mexico. And I thought, again, it was just a powerful reminder that, as you see in the film, of how misunderstood and villainized these people have been by a certain Peach. But it was a very powerful moment, and I thought, I got to be honest with you, when they were going into Remember Me, even though I wasn't too crazy about the performance and the way that it was handled, the emotion was still there because of how powerful that is in the film. So I'm very happy for the awards that movie got. Another great moment, Jordan Peele winning for Best Original
Yes.
Screenplay. It just goes to show you how far you can come in this industry if you have what it has to be there. And Get Out was one of the most remarkable films I've seen in quite some time. I think you ended up loving it. And if you see it, watch it over again, even when it's over, because you catch so much that you miss over the first time. It is such a thrilling and experience, such a wonderfully written and directed movie.
How much?
I thought it
How
was
much
going to win.
did you let it
Yeah.
stew before you watched it a second time?
I want to say a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, just
Digest it.
and to digest it. It's a great film. It really is, and it was well deserved, and very
You
happy
said
for him.
you said you thought that he was going to win Best Director.
Best Picture.
Oh,
No,
Best
not Best
Picture.
Director. I thought because I'll get to that later. Let me just go through real quickly some of the other winners that caught my attention. I think all of the acting categories were pretty much 100% accurate. Francis and Sam deserved it, as did Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman gave one of the best performances probably ever. He was amazing in Darkest Hour. The movie isn't great, but he is.
I haven't
So
seen
just to
that
keep that
movie,
in mind.
Darkest Hour, but I have seen clips of him as Churchill. And my God, is he transformative?
He blows you away. Also, great moment for James Ivory. I'm not sure he's ever won. He's pretty old when you saw him go up there when he won for a screenplay of Call Me
Yeah.
By Your Name. He's never won an Academy Award. But, that was his first, and I think you can tell that was a really special moment, especially for that movie, because I really do love that film, and I'm happy that he got something. I got to be honest with you, I'm not going to complain too much about it because, there were a lot of great performances in that category. Again, I thought Allison Janney gave a good performance. I'm not sure it was an Academy Award winning performance for I, Tonya, and I'll guarantee you that's one of the reasons why she won is because she had a killer campaign all throughout the award season, and she's very well liked. Everybody likes Allison
Well,
Janney.
yeah.
So that's probably one of the big reasons why she won. And as far as the big two, it was always going to be Guillermo. Guillermo was always going to win because he deserves it. He's never won before, and as happy as I am that Jordan got in there and Greta got in there, it should have been Guillermo del Toro because he has been in this and because Shape of Water is a great movie. It's also, that's why, another reason why I can't get angry for that winning Best Picture because it, as you said, it was an inspired choice. I will tell you though, um, as far as what ended up winning Best Picture, from what I was hearing anyway, is that probably would have gone to Three Billboards if it wasn't for some kind of backlash. I don't know what happened there.
What was the
I'll say this: there were a lot of people in the Academy that just didn't like the movie, point blank. And then another
That's
thing is
stupid.
apparently there was this movement. Yeah, but it's the Academy, Kyle. That's
the
to be
Academy
expected.
is stupid.
Another thing is, not disagreeing here. You know, just look back at what happened last year. The other thing here is the backlash that was forming against this movie was apparently its lack of commentary on race and how it may have mishandled that in the movie, when again that wasn't what the movie was going for. I think a lot of us would probably say that was bullshit, but again, these are politics, these are the Academy people, and if people are already looking for an excuse to knock this movie down a peg, remember, as I was telling David Moreno the other day, because we were talking about, you know, the recent history of the Academy
By the way,
Awards.
hi, David.
I have it. Right, hi, David. I have it on good authority from my sources down on the ground, and we probably have some good reasoning for what happened last year with La La Land, because what happened there is La La was winning everything, and so everybody was just expecting that to win because they had won everything before it. And Moonlight, I think, only won 1 or 2, but those were the only 2 that were going forward. But based on my sources, there was actually a movement within the voting board that went out of their way to take that movie down. So again, we're in a position where we're not voting for what is the best movie. By the way, that's not me saying La La was the best movie. I'm just saying that here we have these group of people who don't care about which movie is the most deserving
which has the most celebrity/political intrigue.
Well, yes, but in this case that I'm referencing, they seem to be motivated by hatred of this movie and the love that it was getting. So they went out of their way to take it down. And again, we're getting, and that's why it lost. That's why, you know, I'm gonna tell you why, because there's actual mathematics here, and it's important for the audience to know this. The Academy Awards, especially for Best Picture, they don't win based on a popular vote. All right. So for the past few years, they switched to this preferential ballot. And the way that it works is you list all of the nominees for Best Picture in order of your first preference to your least preference, right? And so let's say in the case last year, La La Land probably won the popular vote last year.
But the Electoral College was stupid. And
it's pretty much that's how it ended up winning out, because, or not in this case. La La Land probably ended up winning the popular vote, but it missed the threshold it needed to secure it. So that meant that they would go to everybody's number 2 choice. And if Moonlight ended up winning that, then that would have won Best Picture. A preferential ballot is much more complicated than a popular vote ballot. So just to make sure everybody understands that Best Picture is not decided by an up and down popular vote. It's pretty much kind of like the Electoral College on the popular vote in the presidential election. So that is why they were able to sabotage La La Land, and that's why Moonlight won Best Picture. So it's because of things like this where I kind of take whatever the Academy thinks with a grain of salt, like really, because this is really bullshit. With all due respect.
And
so just to give more context
to that. Into like themes and what have you. The main theme of Three Billboards was empathy and forgiveness and all that stuff. How is that a huge turnoff? How is that such a detrimental turnoff? Anyway, with The Shape of Water...
Well,
go ahead. With The Shape of Water, I really appreciate that it won. The movie is very sex positive. not afraid to explore your sexuality, and that's the whole thing. It's very anti-toxic masculinity, um, and that's a huge thing of this year, especially with the huge Times Up movement. Um, and that right there is another reason why it went to Shape of Water.
Do you know what else it has? Look at the cast of characters. I can tell you why it won based on describing it the way that I'm seeing it. Shape of Water is about these group of displaced people in society who have been pushed to the margins, uniting together to help and save this other person who's been pushed to the margins. Richard Jenkins is a gay older man character. You have Sally Hawkins, who's mute. Octavia Spencer, who is black in the 50s. You have Michael Stuhlbarg, who is the Russian spy doctor. And they're all coming together to help this amphibious creature from what you said is the archetype of masculinity or whatever. And it's these people who are different, who are not like each other, but the only thing that connects them is that they're different and they're being pushed back from society. They come together and they save one of their own. And I think one of the great things that makes it such a beautiful movie. And I think that's one of the main themes that is so relevant in today's political climate. So I'm not sure if you thought about it that way, but that's one of the things that I took away with watching that movie. And one of the main things why I think they preferred that winning over Three Billboards. But it should be fair to know that there are a lot of people, aside from the whole political backlash, I just think personally, based on what I've been hearing, a lot of Academy members just didn't like the movie. And if there's enough people that didn't like it, then it's not going to win Best Picture.
Do you think it has anything to do with the ending not having closure?
I can't really say what it was. All I can tell you is that there were enough of them to make that much of a difference. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say there. Although I do think Three Billboards deserved to win Best Picture.
Yeah.
As I said repeatedly on my Twitter account, when I officially endorsed Three Billboards
you
to win Best
sabotaged
Picture,
it,
and
you know it. You put that right there, and you. I'm done. I'm done.
What? I went on Twitter to show my support for a film
and
I truly
everything you support
was great,
withers and dies. That's why we have Trump as president.
I mean, are you trying to say that I used my curse for dooming every single nominee who I picked to win Best Picture as a weapon and doomed Three Billboards?
Yes, that is exactly.
Why would I do that?
Because me and Peter wanted Three Billboards to win. And we all know Mr. Soto, and we all know what a petty creature he is.
Okay. Well, all I'll say to that is I wish Mr. Martinez all the best with his wall of losers.
Anyway, final thoughts on the 2018 Oscars.
Yeah, they were nice. Can't wait till next year when Black Panther sweeps the field.
You monster. You horrible, horrible monster. It's time to bring something back, ladies and gentlemen. So let's ask the age-old question. What's happening, hot stuff?
What's happening, hot stuff?
Feels so good to say that. Haven't said it in a while. Anyway, guys, Alexis, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Did you like the movie Elf?
Yeah.
Did you like the first two Iron Man movies?
I love Iron Man 1, and I think Iron Man 2 is a horribly underappreciated movie. It honestly gets me upset when people say it's not a good movie, it's a bad movie. No, it's not. It's not a great movie by any means, but it is a good movie with a lot of fun. Does it have problems? Yes, it does, but it is a good
Did you
movie.
like the live action Jungle Book?
I enjoyed
Did
it.
you?
I also love Chef.
Well, guess.
And I also didn't mind Cowboys and Aliens or
Well,
Zathura.
get. Oh, Zathura. Zathura is a wonderful movie, wonderful movie. So, Alexis, with that being said, you're in luck because combined, the guy who was responsible for all those movies, and your favorite subject, Star Wars, combine them together, and you have Jon Favreau for Star Wars. It was announced last week that Jon Favreau is going to be at the helm of a new Star Wars television live action show for the Disney streaming service. Now, Alexis, what do you think of this news?
So you're trying to tell me that Pre Vizsla himself, the head of Clan Vizsla of Death Watch, is going to be writing and producing a Star Wars show.
That is, in fact, correct.
Well,
Wow.
um,
To quote David Tennant.
well, I think this. Well, yeah. Well, this really goes to show you how ingrained Jon Favreau has been welcomed into the Disney family on virtually every level. I mean, he's been involved with Marvel for I think almost 10 years now. And yeah, he's been doing side projects and passion projects, but also he's been helming Jungle Book and then the upcoming Lion King. So Disney really trusts him, and Jon Favreau is also a huge Star Wars fan.
Love him.
Yeah, and Jon Favreau is also a huge Star Wars fan, and Jon Favreau knows Dave Filoni, and I'm pretty sure Dave and Jon like each other very
He's
much.
also worked with Star Wars alum Harrison Ford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm excited. I think this is look, I'll reiterate. I still have huge reservations about a live action Star Wars show. However, if this is going to be, and it is going to be, the marquee event for the Disney streaming service when it launches next year, they need to put a lot of money into this. And I think they will, because I think Disney, more than anybody, should realize,
How
because I do
huge
think
and
more times than not,
the name Star Wars is.
more often than not, they put the money necessary, especially for Star Wars, to make it right. The trick here is, though, there's never been a live action Star Wars show, so it's going to be interesting what time when
and
the
we
show,
all know the last time Star Wars did anything live action for television, and we all know how that panned out.
Oh God, don't mention that, please. That was a nightmare. Don't. But
I know
but
it's an important day. Sorry, I couldn't help it, but go on.
I really hope. I think he will. I mean, I think Jon Favreau really, really wants to do this, and I think that can make all the difference. Even though I think it wasn't said in the press release, he's pretty much going to be the showrunner of the show, which I think it's perfect. And I also think he, because he has worked on it with Dave and George Lucas on Clone Wars, I'm pretty sure he's going to look to Rebels and Clone Wars and see what they've done, because even though certain people of this esteemed network haven't appreciated what's happened with Rebels lately, I, for one, am very proud of what Dave Filoni and his team have done in the past 10 years, or 12 years, whatever you want to call it, with Clone Wars and Rebels, and I think they have made amazing Star Wars stories that I think transcend the limitations of television. But I think they've done that with animation. I think it can work with animation. Can it work with live action? I think still remains to be seen. But Jon Favreau does get me more interested and excited for what's to come.
There is not one Favreau project I've hated. I think all of his projects are good. I think a lot of the stuff that he's done in the past is good, and I think that Jon Favreau helming Star Wars, I mean, a fan making Star Wars properties. I mean, we've all seen what fans could do with Star Wars. I mean, Gareth Edwards was a huge fan of the grit of Star Wars and what it could do. J.J. Abrams is a huge fan of the feeling he got from Star Wars. Rian Johnson knows Star Wars to a science. And to have another fan come in and make Star Wars content, amazing. Do that. It's awesome. You gotta keep doing that. Because, like it or not, Star Wars has a huge fan base. A lot has stirred in the wrong direction at times. Cough, cough. Last Jedi Backlash. But overall, I think that the fan community is strong, and I think that we need more forces to start creating it. What better than Jon Favreau to do it? I think he has a firm grasp. A lot of inspiration of Star Wars elements go into some of his filmmaking, and it clearly shows.
Does this mean the Obi-Wan movie
Probably.
is dead? Because I mean, even though it was never said that he was attached to it, a lot of people assumed he was going to be directing and writing that movie. And I think I talked about this with Peter in a few podcasts ago. I think with the recent decisions they've been making, it certainly looks like it to me that they're moving as far away as possible from these solo movies. Or these Star Wars stories. I don't know why I said solo. Maybe because it's solo. The upcoming solo
Standalone.
movie. But it seems to me, yeah, these standalone films based on characters that we've already seen. I think, I hope anyway that they're moving away from that.
Yeah.
Even though it sucks because I think Obi-Wan probably would have been a really good standalone.
But
Preferable to
Rebels
Han Solo.
kind of stole its thunder.
No, yeah, yeah, it really did, and Peter agrees too. So it's like, because that's the one thing everybody could have if you're gonna do an Obi-Wan movie, you do it with Maul. But
Yeah, they kind of did that.
I think
they
Rebels did
that. And
to perfection, might I add.
it's
to
still
perfection.
standing as my favorite Star Wars Rebels episode of all time. And now, and I could say that because the series has ended. But yeah, I think
Which you can catch our review of the Star
on the
Wars series
Fantasy
finale
Fair
and season 4
podcast
with the
Morenos. So it sounds like a crossover episode with the Goldbergs. But yeah, I think Jon Favreau is good. It's also I wondered if he was up to something because Ron Howard on his Instagram took a picture of Jon Favreau inside the Lucasfilm studio headquarters. Yeah,
Really?
on his Instagram. So I was suspicious of what was going on. I'm like, yeah, he has a cameo, but you don't just invite somebody like Jon Favreau into your premises without something cooking in the kitchen first. And no, it isn't Jon Favreau making his famous Cubanos that's cooking. So I was wondering, what are they up to? And sure enough, they announced that Jon Favreau is returning. So I wasn't as surprised as everybody was because I was already suspicious enough. Let's talk about the backlash of everybody say. A lot of people are like, "Oh, it's another writer, a white writer that they're hiring for the thing for Star Wars." What do you think about that statement?
It wasn't. It was probably one of the worst PR moves, public relations move in quite
Because
some
they
time
did it on National
to
Women's
drop
Day.
this on National Women's Day. To which Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. dropped an amazing roundtable with the women of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which makes up the majority of the cast. You can go watch that right now on YouTube.
Of course, that plug.
It was a great conversation. By the way, a show that is primarily the head EP of is a woman, Marissa Tancharoen. So, wonderful about that as well. Look, I think I'll just say that my thoughts can be traced back to the beginning of the show. Like, yeah, but I like Jon Favreau, so I can't say this upsets me, but it really just kind of it's gotten to a point where it kind of like really, it upsets me that people react this way immediately, but I understand it to some extent, but I'd rather just not think about it, so.
Well, then. So, guys, something happened last week. 2 things happened last week. First...
3 things. I mean, the series finale of Star Wars Rebels, which you can go.
Well, stuff that we haven't talked about yet. Number 1, S.H.I.E.L.D. reached its 100th episode, which Alexis will gladly, beyond gladly, review for you after I tell you another thing that happened last week. And that was Netflix dropped not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What the fuck? I'm losing it, guys. Jessica Jones, season 2 was released on Netflix on March 8th, and I binge watched it, thinking that other people on the panel would binge watch it too, but I followed that yellow brick road all by myself to Emerald City, and
You just
I was
assumed,
like,
right?
everybody's gonna watch it, so I might as well get ahead of the game because I was so far behind with The Punisher, and I wanted to get ahead of the.
Iron
and
Fist.
I wanted to get ahead of
And Runaways.
Iron Fist. What's that? Anyway, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get ahead of the curve and watch Jessica Jones season 2. And I definitely have thoughts. On season 2. So Alexis Soto, buckle in because you're in for a wild ride. I'm gonna keep it mostly spoiler free. I will give like little minor spoiler details in it, but nothing detrimental to the overall plot or stuff that it was involved with Jessica Jones season 2. First of all, we have Jessica Jones. This is a minor detail, but it's been in all of the trailers. So she's been reeling off, killing off. Wait, if you haven't seen Jessica Jones season 1, please do not listen because I'm revealing.
Hold up. If you haven't seen Jessica Jones season 1, fuck off.
Anyway, so Jessica Jones is played fantastically by Kristen Ritter. She is reeling off from what she did in Jessica Jones season 1, which was
raped,
killing Kilgrave, and trying to come to grips with asking the main question: is she a murderer? Is she, and
Is she?
what?
Didn't she kill like 10 ninjas and the defenders? I could have sworn I remember her killing a lot of people.
Well, that's a major one of the major complaints I have about season 2. They don't address the defenders at all, or what happened. like
never
it
even
never
happened?
even happened. I'm
Oh
I'm
my god!
very
Really?
suspicious. I'm very suspicious what happened. You know, it's so funny. Danny Iron Fist got more reference in Jessica Jones season 2 than the Defenders. Uh, but then again, it's because Jerry Hogarth, one of her main uh, contributors to her organization, is the Rand family. So I guess I could see why they do that. That's the only mention they get, is that the Rand Foundation, yada
You
yada
know
yada
why, right?
yada.
Just
Does
okay.
that
Go
have
ahead. Sorry.
anything to do with Iron Fist?
Yeah, because Jerry Hogarth was actually a part of her origin as a lawyer in New York is that she worked for the Rand Corporation when she was starting out for Danny Rand's father. And then in the show, she's the one that helps prove that Danny Rand is Danny Rand because he was off in Kunlun and the
Oh,
world thought he
so
was dead.
she made an appearance in Iron Fist.
Oh, she was an important player in Iron
Okay.
Fist.
All right. I see.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Okay. So they had more reference of Rand than Jessica Jones referencing Daredevil or Luke Cage or anything like that.
Yeah, you'd think that would have affected her
Yeah, but
somehow,
it,
you
it
know?
did it. It was just
Matt Murdock just
it was
died,
just
and
a
like,
it was just
okay,
another
moving on.
day at the office, I guess. Oh fuck! Oh
That's weird. That's
Oh,
really
Foggy has a
weird.
cameo in, and I'm saying cameo in a very loose term. He was there to like stop Jerry from doing something. I guess it was stupid. And he was like, "No, don't do this." And Jerry pretty much told Foggy to fuck off, and that was the extent of his scene in Jessica Jones. So I'm like, okay, that happened. Were you needed there, Foggy? No, absolutely not. But we have to connect everything together. And
But I mean, weren't you, wait a minute? Weren't you just saying that you were upset that they didn't connect to Defender? So what are you saying?
it was.
That they're connecting things in the wrong way, that they're getting sloppy, and that they're not caring as much about what
Like,
came before. Like, it's not connecting where
Yeah.
it should, and it's trying to connect where it
Yeah,
shouldn't.
I mean, it's like
Okay.
that was that was one of my main issues. Another main issue I have with Jessica Jones, um, season 2,
Season 2.
is albeit not the protagonist's fault because it was a tough act to follow, but lack of an intriguing or compelling antagonist. And that's the thing.
Really?
I mean,
Wow.
it was definitely a hard act to follow, with David Tennant coming in as Kilgrave, which for those fans of David Tennant, don't get your hopes up. From that promo image that you saw on Entertainment Weekly of Kilgrave being in Jessica Jones season 2, uh,
Some more
he
disappointment.
had a glorified cameo in Jessica Jones season 2. No more, no less. So for those fans of what David Tennant did for the previous season, don't come in expecting much of him. Anywho, I mean, the actress did fine, but it wasn't David Tennant, she is not, and that's very unfortunate that it had to be that way. But also the writing is very stereotypical. I am a misunderstood villain, kind of thing, and that's the other thing that really hindered, not hindered. That's a strong word. It didn't really put it off the way that it should have in Jessica Jones season 2. However, as much as negativity that I'm saying, I liked this season. I really did. I think Kristen Ritter outdid herself in this season. She is she is Jessica Jones. I don't see any other actor or I don't see any other actress performing this character the way that Kristen Ritter did. Um, all the other characters are really good. I like what they've done with Malcolm this season. I really like what they've done with Trish. The Trish's mom, bitchy as ever, but deliciously bitchy. Um, I I think that a lot of characters in this did really well. Carrie Ann Moss had a huge role as Jerry Hogarth in this season. Like huge. Like she had like a she was here and there in season one of Jessica Jones. It, she was a solid C plot. And I'm not saying that as like, oh, it's just another plot. No, she had a huge part in this role, in this season. Um, she goes through an arc. Everybody has a complete arc, a well written arc from beginning to end. Um, I really like the dynamic between Trisha and Jessica this season, and the way that they deal with that. I like her relationship. There's a new character or characters in this season with the superintendent and the superintendent's kid, and that was an interesting dynamic. And you got to see Jessica open up uh, for the first time because she's always reserved, and you see her for the first time opening up, and that was really refreshing seeing because of all that. And you get to see a little bit more backstory on Jessica Jones. And her backstory is more than meets the eye to her. And I think it was well crafted, other than the elements that I told you of before. Um, yeah, those are those are definitely my thoughts on Jessica Jones season two.
Maybe more
Mr. Soto, do you have
like
any
comments to say
questions?
about the things that you were talking about, criticism
Okay.
anyway. I I'm getting the sense that the Marvel Netflix universe is slowly collapsing into itself. Um, and that may have to do because they kind of set the bar so high with those first 3 or 4 seasons that I think ever since, and even though I love Luke Cage season 1, ever since then, there's been this precipitous feeling in the air that everything that has followed has been a law of diminishing returns. I love Daredevil season 1, season 2, Jessica Jones season 1, and Luke Cage season 1. However, I do understand some of the critiques of the latter half of Luke Cage season 1. But then it really just sinks with Iron Fist. Defenders was good, not great. And there's a bit of just, it's not as watchable as the other shows. Punisher, good, not great. Pacing issues, too many episodes. Jessica Jones season 2, by all accounts, same thing. Good, not great, a little slow, too many episodes. Also, there's no, apparent from what you're saying, little regard for trying to connect to previous events. And also, some bit of news that I think people just glossed over, which I think would make sense somehow, is according to Kristen Ritter, there are no plans for a Defender Series 2, and that it was only going to be a one-time thing. Which, what? No,
That
really,
sucks.
like, what? So,
of everything that.
It's also, I think, a sign that it's
that's
disintegrating.
silly. That's
It's
silly,
disintegrating.
and also it shows
And it sucks because I
they're
remember
abandoning ship.
ever since the first season of Daredevil, I was so excited for every subsequent season, subsequent show, because let's just face it, man, those first couple of seasons of Jessica Jones Daredevil really set the bar so high, but it feels like ever since then it's been like a continuous drop down, and I think they haven't been able to go back up in quality. And look, I'll say this in regards to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the quality of the show. No one here loves the show more than I do, but I think it is fair to say that I personally wouldn't be upset if you put both seasons of Daredevil and maybe even Jessica Jones season 1 over the series. I understand. But it certainly seems to me that if you consider seasons 3, 4, and 5 of S.H.I.E.L.D. compared to these new seasons of Punisher, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, certainly, Defenders, they haven't even been able to match that, I feel. And I think they're kind of getting careless. It seems as if they're getting even less money for their budgets, and they're so hell-bent on needlessly dragging it out to 13 episodes, every single show. The one show that I felt, ironically enough, could have had more episodes was The Defenders itself. But, I don't know. Does it seem to you... Let me ask you this, point blank.
Yeah.
Should this season have been 13 episodes, or do you think it could have been condensed?
11 episodes, I think, would have done this season justice. I think it's because of
And that's also another thing, though.
Subplot
So there's a
with
weak
the
villain?
and everything.
This
This
is the house that Marvel Netflix built. You have Wilson Fisk,
yeah, the villain was weak.
and Kilgrave, and Cottonmouth, and all those other ones. This is the house that the Marvel Netflix they've had the best villains, and now is that disintegrating as well?
I get why. You'll have to see why they put the villain there. But the way that this character is in correlation with everything else, the shtick of the emotional grasp of the character became started to hinder the show. And I get it, and it kind of made Jessica do things that Jessica wouldn't do, because quite frankly, she's like she thinks with her fists. She thinks with with logic, and she's probably the most logical out of all the Defenders, and she was thinking illogically at the in this season because of the hindrance of the villain, and I think,
man, this is really beginning
I just
to get
think that the
bad,
villain really
because
hindered this show.
if I'm thinking about the villains from Iron Fist to Defenders to Punisher to now this, based on what you're telling me anyway, it seems as if in the past 4 shows, the villains have been complete, if not partial, misfires. Whoa.
Here's the
But
thing,
not
though.
with Marvel
We've had
Misfire.
misfire villains.
That's what I'm
in
trying
the
to
past
say. If
with
we're going to
Marvel
compare
itself.
it to Marvel Netflix, this is bad.
I know, but here's the thing. That's not where I was going. I was not going there. I was saying that we've had misfire villains in Marvel before, but it did not.
And what I was
hinder
going to
the
say is,
story
I think
as
it's
a
even
whole.
more disappointing
This
on
time
this
it
level
didn't.
because, by and large, as you say, the villains that we've gotten from the Marvel Netflix universe have been more compelling than we've gotten from the Marvel films, and that's why that's why I'm saying there's a higher standard, I think, on these shows to be better than I think they've actually been performing.
Number one, Wilson Fisk is terrifying. Number two, Kilgrave, gloriously sadistic, and the way that he was fucked up to the main character, unfathomable, and David Tennant sold that so
Cottonmouth.
fucking well. Diamondback and
I even like Mariah and Shades
and Cottonmouth, brilliant.
Elektra was good in season 2.
All of them.
I didn't care much for her in Defenders. The Hand I thought was really great in season 2, but not in Defenders. It's weird. It's really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Do you think they're trying to like abandon ship before
I
the
don't
whole,
know. I really don't know. It
Netflix
feels like
thing,
they've just stopped
Disney,
trying.
Streaming service comes
I
around?
feel anyway. And to answer your question earlier about why Peter and I didn't tune in is because, and it's not like we discussed it like beforehand. It just kind of happened. Is that, yeah, the Marvel Netflix shows they're no longer the event they used to be. You know? It's no longer a must watch, which is really sad, I feel. And I think again, I'll take your word, the season's good. But it just seems, but that's like the third or fourth consecutive show in a row where you can say
great.
that. And they're fighting against the expectations that the other shows in this universe have set for themselves. So it's kind of sad. And yeah,
Number one, Jeff Loeb, give these shows a fucking bone. Number two, Ike Perlmutter, go wither and die. You're a hindrance on everything that is being brought forth with all these Netflix programming, and it's looking bad on you because it just looks like you don't care. So yeah, take my advice with great generosity, sir.
my what?
Yeah, that's all I have to say. Hopefully your side is
What do you
better,
mean?
Alexis.
Oh,
Your side is better.
Okay. Well,
You saw Shield, the 100th episode. What'd you think of What'd you think of Shield? And its
all I can say at the start.
100th episode milestone. As somebody who is a series fan and declares this as his favorite show.
To be fair,
of all
Kyle,
time.
I never once
Tell me
said
why.
of
Tell me
all
why
time. You're the
you
one that
liked,
keeps saying it's of
season-
all time.
I mean, the 100th episode.
Well, just to state the facts here.
Well, you paint this lovely picture.
Season 5 has been great. Season 5 has been great, and
I mean, you could clearly
every single
see
week they're
Mona
delivering
Lisa
even
smiling.
More and more. This is the perfect show to watch week to week. They give you so much in one episode, and they keep you wanting more. Every single episode of this series, I've walked away satisfied and hungry for more. In this episode in particular, this is the 100th episode of this show, which is a milestone for any show in general, especially in this day when it's even harder to reach that milestone. But what I love, tell me about
especially on a network that's known for
and so I think
left and right.
getting here, I feel, is a victory in and of itself for the cast and crew and the fan base that have kept it alive thus far. And What I loved about this episode is that while yes, it has the mechanics of a 100th episode celebration, it doesn't just drop everything and like, hey guys, remember this? Remember when we did this? Remember this guy? And wasn't that fun? It doesn't drop any storyline that's been happening in the season like any other shows to take a moment and breathe. It does take a moment, but it builds upon what was teased back weeks ago, and it capitalizes on a particular moment. So the catalyst for this episode is that Coulson reveals the deal he made with Ghost Rider back at the end of season 4, when the Spirit of Vengeance goes into him so they can take down Ada. There was a cost, and the bill is shown. No, it wasn't a pill. I meant to say bill. There's no pill involved.
Did you just reveal a spoiler?
No. And the bill is owed, it's up to be paid. And
Okay.
the reveal of what the deal was, and more importantly, the emotional toll it took on the team, only could have worked at this point in the show, because you can tell how. I think it also helps that a lot of the cast and crew, they themselves have said it many times, and they don't have to say it because you feel it and you see it, that they are a family both on the show and off the show. And that moment when Coulson reveals what is happening and what is going to happen is devastating. And there is this moment that he has with Daisy in particular that is heartbreaking and sad and beautiful. And I can't remember the last time I wept at an episode of this show, but this was. But I mean, I'll just say this episode was perfect. It was perfect, because it had a story that was about Phil Coulson and him being the symbol for S.H.I.E.L.D. and what it means after all of this is happening, with all of the things that are happening right now. They pay off so much for other characters as well. There were moments of genuine shock and surprise. And this was one of the rare examples in which there are tears of brokenheartedness, tears of pain, but then also tears of absolute joy. And it really does change the game going forward. And they keep it fresh to where things are going to happen in the future that I can't even foresee. I'm not going to spoil anything. I don't even want to discuss about certain things you may have seen in Tumblr or whatever, Kyle, because I just don't want to. You need to, or Twitter or whatever, you need to see this episode going in dark without knowing any details, because that is how you're going to enjoy it the most. Because what they were able to pull off was a genuine surprise, and also a wonderfully written, directed, acted, and emotional episode. I think when it's all said and done, this will be one of their signature episodes, because easily one of my favorites. Because
is this one of your favorites?
Yes, it is. It is.
If not top 10.
Because I think they don't go big in the sense that there's this action heavy stuff. They go big for story and character work, which I think where the show really excels. Not like. Yeah,
Yawn.
so
I'm just kidding.
I was incredibly happy and moved by what I saw. And, I'm getting this lingering feeling that a lot of what happened in this episode and a lot of what has been happening this season, this is beginning to feel like the end, if I'm being honest with you. And while on some level that is saddening, if this was to be a final season, they're doing it to perfection. And so a lot of the emotional beats and payoffs and storylines. There is a moment of Felinda, I will say, I did tease in this episode. There's a moment. So if this were to be the last season, and Jed and Marissa are writing this as a potential series finale, the end of the season, I wouldn't be as upset or angry as I would have last year, because I think they're really going out of their way to, close off some loose threads. I mean, of course, I hope it comes back next year. I think this is a great show that gets better every year and every year. But I'll just say that the things that we're getting this year are so rewarding and so satisfying that, okay, we'll see what happens. But I think you're going to like a lot of the stuff that they've been showing, and I can't wait for you to see it whenever you get that chance.
Well, that was apparently a very emotional review from Mr. Soto. And that concludes today's programming. So, did you guys like what you heard? And if you liked it, go check out podcast.com and iTunes.com and keyword Red Spotlight Entertainment, and you'll check it out there. And if you want to see our bright and shining faces, go on YouTube, where we do After Darks after every movie we see in the movie theaters, and we go sweat it out in a car and vlog a review that way. Tune in pretty soon, because the 100th episode is quickly approaching us. Potentially within the next 2 weeks. We'll see how this goes. Check out Fantasy Fair. We just recorded 2 episodes recently, and we want you to check that out. So, without further ado, I'm Kyle, Lira. Tori and Kermit, take it away.